So, the verb irregular. Okay, so there are irregular verbs in Korean. This is not the only irregular verb conjugation in Korean. There are others. This is the only one that we teach in the main portion of the book. The others are taught in the appendix, just to save space, basically. I would say this one is the most common one, the one that you're going to have to use the most often. But they're all relevant and they're all useful to know. So in your own time, I do recommend studying the irregular rules because they do affect how verbs conjugate in Korean. So, the verb irregular. So this sentence says, the example sentence says, 더워요, 더워요. It's hot. The base verb for to be hot in Korean is a verb irregular verb. There are a lot of verb irregular verbs, particularly with descriptive verbs. For example, so we have 덥다 to be hot, 춥다 to be cold, 어렵다 to be hard or difficult, and 쉽다 to be easy. These are 4 common verb irregular verbs. Okay, so how do we conjugate these into the present tense? First, you find the verb stem, or first you find the verb itself in the dictionary form. Me here thinking I'll learn it in 2 years. Yeah, they say the time to become fluent in Korean is 10 years. So I'm halfway there, essentially. Yeah, I think Chinese, Korean, Russian are all languages that are classified as very difficult to learn. So they take upwards of 10 years to become fluent in. Yeah, it's a long journey. It's a lifelong journey, really, learning a language. But I love it. I hope you guys can love it as well. Find ways to enjoy it. It can be a lot of fun, honestly. Very fulfilling, very satisfying hobby to have. Okay, so yeah, you find the verb in its dictionary form like this. So all verbs in their dictionary form end in ta in Korean. Then to conjugate, the first thing you do is you remove ta, and let's do this in conjunction with here. So we have the verb 덥다 in its dictionary form, right? This is number 1. Number 2, remove ta to find the verb stem. Now we have top. Top is the verb stem of 덥다. Now we take away the verb. We have 더. The verb just goes away. It disappears into the void. It's always gone. And now we add 우. 더. You just stick an 우 afterwards. Lastly, step 5, you conjugate the 우 into present tense by adding 어요, hence becoming 워요. 워요. So you attach 어요 to 더우 plus 어요, and it becomes 더워요. This 우 combines with the 어, and it makes a new vowel combination, this 워 sound. 더워요. And that's how you conjugate 덥다 into the present tense. It becomes 더워요. 더워요. It's hot. This is a fully complete sentence in Korean. You can say 더워요. Oh, it's hot. Oh, no, 더워요. It's hot today. This is a complete sentence you can use, and you can say this word in Korean to say it is hot. All right. Let's look at another example. Let's look at 춥다. 춥다 is the opposite of 덥다. It means to be cold. Also, side note, in English, you can say a lot of things are hot or cold. Like you can say hot coffee, you can say cold snow, things like that. But 덥다 and 춥다 are specifically used in Korean to talk about the weather. So when you're talking about the way the weather feels, you can use 덥다 and 춥다. But if you're talking about other things like objects, for example, being hot or cold, you might use a different verb. So just side note there, you use these ones when you're talking about the weather. Okay, 춥다. So 춥다 is a verb in its dictionary form, meaning to be cold. So that's what that means. Now, next thing, we take away 다 to find the verb stem. 춥. 춥. Sounds weird. 춥 is the verb stem of 춥다. So next thing you do is you remove the bup and you're left with 추. 추. The bup just goes away. The bup just vanishes. Now we add u and you have 추. Next, step number 5, you attach 어요 because the last sound is not a or ha. Yeah, so if this is new to you, make sure you refresh on the present tense conjugation rules when you're conjugating verbs. So we're conjugating 추우 and you add 어요 and it becomes 추워요. This 어 and 우 combine to make 워. 추워요. So that's how you say it's cold in Korean. And yes, this is a fully complete sentence in Korean. You can say 추워요. 추워요. It's cold. Actually, today is quite cold today. So I could go outside and say 추워요. It's cold today. It's cold right now. 추워요. Okay. Last example to sort of practice the bup irregular is 쉽다. 쉽다 means to be easy. So in its dictionary form, it looks like this. But if you want to say something is easy, if you want to use it in the present tense, you have to follow this bup irregular rule. This is Conversational Korean Grammar. All right. 추워요. Yeah, good job. I poison. Yeah, good job. 추워요. It's cold. And it is cold. It's in November now, so it is quite cold. All right. So 쉽다 means to be easy. And in its dictionary form, this is how it looks. So the first step we do is we take the verb stem and we remove 다. So it becomes 쉽. These verb stems are never used by themselves, but it's an intermediary step. It becomes 쉽다. Oh yeah, Shin Joseph saying 춥습니다. Yeah, when you're using the honorific form 습니다, you can just stick it on the end like that. 춥습니다. Yeah, good job. All right. So 쉽 is the verb stem. Now we take away the bup. So we're left with 쉬. And now we add u again. So we're at this step here, in step 4, we add an u and we have 쉬우. And now we conjugate this into the present tense by attaching 어요, and these vowels combine to make 쉬워요. 쉬워요. It's easy. 쉬워요. It's easy. This lesson is easy. It's 쉬워요. 쉬워요. All right. So, can you use 춥다 only in a sentence? Like, can I? Yeah. 춥다 by itself. Yes. So, but that uses a different grammar form that's called the plain form. And the plain form, when you conjugate it to verbs, to descriptive verbs, the descriptive verbs end up staying the same way. So you can say, oh, 춥다. 춥다. It means it's cold, but it's not polite language. It's often like a self-talk thing. So if you say 춥다 by itself out loud, it suggests that you're sort of talking out loud to yourself. It's not formal language like this. Is it pronounced shwi or she? More like shwi. Yeah, 쉬워요. Yeah. She by itself is just like this. So by adding the u, it becomes 쉬. Yeah. Yeah, no worries. So there are some verbs that end in bup but are not irregular verbs. This gets a little bit tricky. You kind of have to memorize whether a verb is irregular or not. But some examples of some verbs that end in bup but are not irregulars are things like 쉽다 to chew is just 씹어요. 입다 to wear is just 입어요. And 잡다 to catch is just 잡아요. So these ones don't follow this crazy pattern. You just attach 어요 to the verb. And, there are many more verbs that follow this rule. There's many more verbs that do not use this. So, it's just have to memorize it. When she and e is together, it uses sh sound. Yeah, s, the she plus the e sound makes a she sound. Yeah, shi sound. Okay. Other note about the verb irregular. So there are two special verb irregulars, and that's 덥다 and 곱다. Now these verbs don't follow either of these rules. They are exceptions, and they are the only two verbs that follow this special rule. Also, 곱다, this one here, I can write it a little bit bigger. 곱다 is never really used. It means to be pretty, but it's very kind of old-fashioned. 곱다 is kind of like, I don't know, if you're going to call someone bonny or like a fair maiden or something. Like it's very old-fashioned. It's not really used nowadays. Nowadays, you use the verb 예쁘다 to mean to be pretty, or 아름답다 to be beautiful. 곱다 is not really used. The only time I really see 곱다 used is when they're giving this exception. So you don't really have to worry about this one. But 덥다 means to help, and this verb is used all the time. This book is Conversational Korean Grammar. So 덥다, notice it's different from 덥다. 덥다 is to be hot, but 덥다 is to help. And this verb is very commonly used, and it has a special conjugation rule. So let's look at how to conjugate 덥다 into the present tense. So the first thing you do is the same. So you take 덥다, you remove 다 and get top. 덥다 becomes top. And now you take away the biup. But in all the previous examples, we added u, right? This is the standard biup irregular rule. With 덥다, you attach o. 더. And now when this is conjugated into the present tense, because of this o sound, we now attach 아요. This comes from the present tense conjugation rules, where if a verb stem ends in o or a, we attach 아요, and if it's anything else, you add u요. So now we've got a different present tense conjugation as well, and it becomes 도와요. 도와요 is to help somebody or help something. 도와요. So make sure you write this with an R sound. 도와요 is to help. Now, it's extra funky because the extra tricky part, and this part you don't necessarily need to know, but the tricky part is that it doesn't always add ayo. So when it's an option to add ayo, top will always choose ayo. Like present tense, you attach a or yo. If you're adding this is for more, if you're a more intermediate level, this is for you. If you're adding a or so, you also have the option of a, so it becomes 도와서, I help so, 도와서. But if the conjugation does not have the option of a or o, for example, if you're adding u, like in 으면, it means if or when. If you're adding 으면, you don't have the option of a or o, so instead of attaching o here, you attach u. So it becomes 더우면. Or future tense. If you're adding future tense, 것이다. You don't have the option of are or o, so you again add u and it becomes 더 올 거예요. Yeah. So 덥다 is a very special little verb. If you see 덥다 appear, alarm bells should go off. You need to think about, okay, what am I adding as a conjugation? Is it going to become 더와요, or is it going to become 더우면, etc.? So you don't have to remember this right now, but just a future note for future you, 덥다 is a special little verb. And yes, this book is Conversational Korean Grammar. Okay, let's look at some other examples. So, 날씨가 더웠어요. This is the past tense conjugation of 덥다. 더웠어요. So when you're adding past tense, basically you just stick a little double sheet underneath and add an o. 더웠어요 or 쉬웠어요. So 날씨가 더웠어요 means the weather was hot. 어제는 추웠어요. It was cold yesterday. 시험이 어려웠어요. The test was hard. 제 친구가 고왔어요. My friend was pretty. And again, this is using the kopta really just for the sake of the example of the conjugation. This is not a very commonly used expression. Kopta is kind of an old-timey word that's not used anymore. Okay, future tense. 날씨가 더울 거예요. The weather will be hot. If you want to have a refresh on how to conjugate past tense and future tense, we do have videos on our YouTube channel that go through this. But let's look at couple more examples. 내일은 추울 거예요. Tomorrow will be cold. 내일 is tomorrow, and 추울 거예요 means will be. It will be cold tomorrow. Because when you conjugate the verb irregular, you always, except for 덥다 perhaps, you always add u after the verb. It becomes 올 거예요 when you conjugate future tense. 올 거예요. 시험이 어려울 거예요. The test will be difficult. And 제 친구가 저를 더울 거예요. Now this uses this future tense version of 덥다, which is this tricky verb. So because future tense does not have the option of are in the conjugation, it adds u and becomes 더울 거예요. So the verb irregular is a little bit involved, and it might seem really complicated and really difficult when you first encounter it. The more you practice it and the more you encounter it, the easier it will get. It does get easier, but it does take some time. You might have to stop and think about these verbs before you use them to be able to use them effectively.